Welcome back, folks, to the Get a Grip on Lighting podcast. On today's show, we have, we have a friend of the show, Greg. We have Mark Jewell, the co-founder and president of Selling Energy. He's hot on TED Mag. He was hot on Light TED Mag, and now he's back on Get a Grip on Lighting. And he's an award-winning trainer and Wall Street Journal best-selling author. 30 years experience in energy and efficiency. Over those 3 decades, Mark Jewell has taught more than 15,000 energy professionals and influenced efficiency decisions in more than 3 billion square feet of North American real estate. Earlier in his career, Mark helped the US EPA deploy both the Energy Star and Buildings program for commercial real estate and the Portfolio Manager benchmarking tool. Prior to founding Selling Energy, Mark Jewell served as the founder and president of a consulting firm that identified energy-saving improvements, provided financial analysis to justify said improvements, and supported utilities and customers in the creation and implementation of efficiency programs. Mark received his BS in economics from the Wharton School of Finance and Commerce at the University of Pennsylvania. He's got a Facebook, a LinkedIn, an X, an Instagram, and a YouTube, and it's all in the show notes. He's laughing. But before we go there,
got a Denny's gold card.
I got to tell you about Baron Lighting Group. Greg, it's a group. We got a couple different companies, and we want to tell the folks about Exitronics, baby.
Yeah, if not the original, one of the original, launched in 1984, exit signs. And when you talk about being in it, they're in it, man. They've got every single exit emergency light you can imagine. I was in the field today. I got asked about a specific emergency light. Who do I go look for? Exitronics. And sure enough, they've got right what I need right there. They're the right company to work with all the time. Exitronics.
Good people, Exitronics. Here we go to Baron Lighting. Is it BARRONLTG.com? To have that right, right?
Got it.
Right, and
Yes,
then you
sir.
click Exitronics, and you just take it from there because you're a lighting professional. You know what you're doing. You have light bulbs in a warehouse. Oh, you haven't joined Nailed yet. Well, that makes you cheap. You got to support us, brother. If you have light bulbs in a warehouse, we're your crucial shield. We're taking everybody on. We're going after it. We're getting after it. We're out there. So go to NAILD.org. Now, there's a lot of events coming up. We're going to talk about a lot of things here real quick. Lightivation. We have a controls course happening. Boom. We are live streaming from Light Fair if the U.S. government lets me go across the border, which is 50-50 right now, Greg. So I'm not joking
They may
about
let you
that.
go. They may not make you come back.
I know. Canada will let me back in. Canada will let me back in. We just don't know if the U.S. will let me in the country right now. I'm a person of interest. I love you guys. I love you, border guards. But you know what? Let me in for Light Fair. Just Light Fair. That's it. That's all I'm asking for. So May 4th through 8th, be there, be square. Greg, and the convention in September. Come on, man. NALD.org.
You got your whole year planned out. Just ask us where to be, and we'll tell you. Get there.
Oh, yeah. So go to NALD.org, Light Fair. Check him out. Mark Jewell, welcome back to the Get a Grip on Lighting podcast, man.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here.
So what we're seeing now, so we're on the other half of the mountain. How do we sell energy in a declining environment, an environment where sales are going down, where we see our people are sending out price increases, where companies are closing up shop and leaving the industry, where all the rebate programs are being canceled and this sort of stuff? What do you do in that kind of environment, Mark Jewell?
Well, but you're making an assumption first, so Mike, let Mark say his opinion too. You're saying it's going down. Is it declining? Then give it to us.
Here's the funny thing. I was with a client the other day, and we were talking about it actually was our mastermind group coaching conference call that I remember. It's March 31st. We do these 2-hour coaching calls every month. And someone was saying, what do we do? The sky's falling. The tariffs are coming on and raising the price of equipment, and the tax credits are going away. And, IRA, Inflation Reduction Act in this country, 2022 may be rolling back. What's going to happen? All these people are paralyzed on the sidelines. Two main themes. Number one, do the math. If you replace myth with math, you're going to feel a lot more relaxed and comfortable and confident convincing your customers to go forward with lighting retrofits. For example, we don't want to make this a corporate finance course, but if you just stay with me for a couple of minutes here. One, let's imagine you have a $100,000 project that's going to return $300,000 in savings over a 10-year period in present value. So your net present value would be the 300,000 in present value, 100,000 out, you mean you have a $200,000 net present value. Let's assume that of that $100,000 first cost, half of it's equipment. And now somebody slaps a 20% tariff on the equipment. So now the cost is not 50,000 equipment, it's 60,000, and you still have the original 50,000 in labor. So now the total cost of the project went from 100,000 to 110,000 in today's dollars. But you still have $300,000 incoming, right, in present value. So now your NPV drops from 200,000 to 190,000. Big whoop. I mean, do you know how many CFOs would say no to an NPV project is positive $190,000? They say, well, yeah, but it's more serious than that, Mark. What if I was supposed to get a 30% tax credit and the tax credit went away? Okay, fine. $100,000 after tax credit. I think I did the math on a calculator yesterday. It was 143,000. If 100,000 is the post-tax credit amount, 143,000 I think is the pre-tax credit. So now all of a sudden the cost of your project went from 100,000 to 143,000 because you didn't have the $43,000 tax credit, but you still have $300,000 coming in. So now your NPV drops from 200,000 to what is that, 157,000? But how many self-respecting CFOs would say no to $157,000 positive NPV? So if you do the math, and you could, be cute and say, well, I'm going to have the tariff and I'm going to lose the tax credit. Okay, fine. So now the NPV goes down to, I don't know, 143,000. But still, it's a positive net present value project. So that's the replacing myth with math. The math is still there if you do a net present value analysis over the lifetime of the investment. The other thing that's even bigger is you look at the first cost and the savings. A lot of people in this industry just look at savings, the utility savings, rebates, incentives, tax credits, things like that. But what about the non-utility cost financial, meaning quantifiable benefits that occur on line items of the profit or loss statement that are not the utilities line item? And what about non-financial benefits? So I'll give you an example of one of each. One, aluminum windows and doors manufacturer does an upgrade of lighting. The CFO is convinced to do it because it's kind of dim and depressing in the workshop, and he signs off on a 4.2-year payback retrofit, which is not sexy. It's 4.2 years. They energize the new lights. People can see what's going on. They are more accurate in what they cut and drill and screw together in the windows and doors. And as a result, the aluminum scrap rate drops by 25% because they can finally see what they're doing and they have a better morale. Okay. When the enterprising shop foreman values the 25% lower scrap rate, it finds that, and he puts that number in the simple payback period calculation, the project that the CFO thought was a 4.2-year payback is actually 39 days because aluminum is a lot more valuable than electricity savings. So are you telling me that because they lost the tax credit or they lost maybe they had to pay a little bit more for the lights because of a, tariff, should a CFO who knows that this happened in an adjacent manufacturing facility, should say, no, we're going to put the kibosh on a lighting retrofit, when he realized that his competitor down the street just had a 39-day payback because they remembered to include the aluminum scrap rate reduction? Okay, so that's one thing. How about a non-financial benefit? Let's say you put a lighting retrofit in an office building, and as a result of that lighting retrofit, the building gets an Energy Star label. I have no less than 6 sources in our segment guides database that prove beyond a statistically significant shadow of a doubt that if you have an Energy Star label on a U.S. commercial office building, that building's going to have higher rent, higher sales price, and higher occupancy percentage, just because it has an Energy Star label on it. So you think, well, the Energy Star label is kind of a nice to have. Well, it's a nice to have. It also is connected with some very significant yardsticks for an income producing owner or manager. Higher rent, higher occupancy, higher sales price per square foot. You think it's a cute little blue sticker. If I'm a landlord, I'm thinking that's profitability, brother. I mean, I want to get that Energy Star label, and the lighting retrofit might be the way for me to get that. So I think that all this trauma about, oh my God, sky's falling, tariffs and rebates rolling back, silly. It's still silliness. One last thing, by the way, I can't resist. Utilities are relying more on code. One of the reasons they're rolling back the LED retrofit rebates is because in many communities, that's just best practice. We don't need to bribe people to do this. But what they still have rebates on lighting controls. And so you're not out of the money. If you're in a lighting business, you can still get rebates on
Lightivation,
controls.
June, lighting controls, specialist in controls is put on by Nailed. You'll be certified for lighting controls, Greg Garrick. I got some people going. You got some people going. That's at
Yeah.
Lightivation in June. Go ahead, Greg. Just
No.
had to throw a quick ad in there for Nailed.
Yeah, no, that's great. So that's good to hear. Positive message here. When you
Mm-hmm.
talk to Mike, he says
Absolutely.
everything's going down. The uh, the tax credit idea. Is a tax deduction like the building deduction going away for sure? or where is that at?
I have no idea. I have no
Okay.
idea. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't want to get political on this broadcast, but I'm not fond of what's coming out of Washington right now. And I think
Yeah.
a lot of people who voted for Trump are not fond of what's coming out of Washington right now. So it's just
I'm Canadian.
yeah, right.
And he's
Well, I
not
know you
fond of
guys
it
have a
either.
lot of reason to.
No,
Yeah, I'm
I'm
not
just
fond of anything that's
Canadian.
coming
I'm
out of
just going to
Washington
leave
either.
that on the
Yeah,
table. But yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
yeah. I mean,
So
the point is that I really believe that success in business is really a function of at least two things. Number one, the ability to make decisions in the presence of imperfect information.
mm.
And number two, and God knows we have enough imperfect information now. And number two, the ability to be resilient. Because when everybody else is saying the sky's falling and they retire from the lighting business, or they just lose hope and go in a corner and cry, there's a lot of money to be made by the people who are saying, well, wait a second. It's not like people are going to stop needing controls. It's not as if people are going to stop needing better visibility and safety and in their businesses. You know, it's not as if those people who bought LED lights, if first generation LED lights, God knows how many years ago, don't have to have those lights replaced. People say, well, once they get the LED socket, we can't do anything for 25 years. That's
No,
BS.
that's nonsense.
It's nonsense. It's nonsense.
Nonsense.
And in fact, with this, if the stuff that was coming out of the subpar lower bin LED chips that were put in a lot of this white label stuff to try to get the price point down, the fastest payback, those things are coming back to roost. They're having premature failures. They're making ceilings look terrible. Somebody's going to come in there and say, you know what, your
And
business, you're
everybody's
spending,
sick of flat panels. Like flat panels are like
well,
so
that's, yeah,
bad. Greg, I mean,
well,
come
yeah,
on.
yeah,
So okay, I'm gonna jump in right now because so you're like every time I talk to Mark, he always like elevates the conversation to a different level. And I think I think there's an element in this though, Mark, of a gut check time. Like, are you in lighting or aren't you in lighting? And if you're not, it's okay to leave. Like if you were, so I was a rebate chaser. I can admit it. Like I'm really struggling to sell these energy efficiency projects without rebates. I'm just going to put out my hand and say I'm a rebateaholic. And I sold on rebates for years. It worked for 25 years. I didn't know anything different. I sold on rebates since
hmm
1999, 2001 or
well,
1999. I can't remember. Right. So I've been selling
yeah,
these rebates like a madman. And I realized that I wasn't explaining the value proposition to the customers. The customers
no.
were paying $1 for 50 cents. They literally were paying $1 for 50 cents. And they were confident that everything was going to work out because they were getting a rebate. And that's a major shift, I think, for many people in the lighting industry. Do you have any advice for us addicts coming out of addiction now?
It's a 12 steps program. First, you have to know you have a problem. So congratulations on that. You're at step number two. Here's again, I find that the people who are not as successful as they really need to be in energy efficiency in general are the people who take a myopic view of what is at stake here. You know, Anybody who actually understands the segment, understands the business acumen of how the decisions are made in that segment, and understands all three buckets of benefits of doing better lighting. Rebates are really an also ran. I mean, honestly, same thing. You could use the same analysis I gave you at the beginning of this broadcast with, so what, the tax credit goes away, who cares? So what, the tariffs raise the first cost, who cares? I could just as easily have said, so what, the rebate went away, who cares? The first cost went up by, I don't know, whatever the amount of the rebate was going to be. But that doesn't mean that if it's an intelligently conceived retrofit, it doesn't mean that the present value is no longer attractive enough to get a CFO's attention and approval. And especially if you include those non-utility cost financial, non-financial benefits, the more you start talking about, I mean, I know Greg and I last year, maybe the year before, we were talking about his selling energy efficiency improvements lighting to senior living. Remember that nursing home thing with a Methodist church or something or other, it was some religious institution, Episcopalian something or other. And you looked in the segment guides and had all these benefits of better lighting in senior living, less slips and falls, better sleeping patterns, people taking their medication more regularly, better resident uptake of people putting their parents and grandparents in these homes because the places basically looked better. They felt better about dedicating their parents and grandparents to these homes because the look and feel of the place was better. And so, do you need a rebate to buy a system that's going to prevent slips and falls in your senior living home?
You might,
No.
Greg. You answer that honestly.
Honestly,
Honestly.
yeah. I mean, it depends on the customer. There are certain people that expect it at this point. There are others that still don't
Yep.
really know much about it. But
So, yeah, I agree with Greg. Let's take multi-residential in Toronto. Okay, I'm going to give you an
Yeah.
example of a customer. Okay, so a customer calls us up with a request. We want to change 171 fixtures in our parking garage and 130 fixtures in our stairwell. So we say, okay, what
Hmm.
fixture do you want to do? We start going through the process with them, all this kind of stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
And it turns out that they have the reason why they're going down this road. This is mind boggling to me, was because they had 10 burned out fixtures in a corridor of their parking garage, which wasn't retrofitted when they retrofitted the rest of the fixtures to LED tubes. And they assumed that the equipment was no longer available, and they thought every time that they need to fix a light bulb, they have to change every light bulb in their building, and they were looking
Wow.
for a massive rebate, and they didn't understand that there was no rebates anymore, and that a box of LED tubes costs $300. You can buy that from me and just change the light bulbs in those fixtures, and it'll probably work. And so we have this mindset. I think the customers have also drank this Kool-Aid as well. Greg, would you agree with that? There's segments of customers, like in Toronto, multi-residential high-rise buildings, condominiums. They are as addicted to rebates as I was. And so we have to almost untrain the customer from saying to them, listen, the rebate was never a mark of quality. It was never a mark of a good lighting system. It was simply an energy efficiency play. And
Hmm.
now you have burned out lights in your building. You can fix them. You can change all of them. But they have to get they're as addicted as I was in Ontario, which is heavily LED adopted. They're as addicted to
Yeah.
rebates as I am, Mark. How do we tackle that particular problem directly?
You, again, I think it comes to business acumen. I mean, if they trust you as being someone who's experienced in doing lighting for multifamily institutions, you can give them this kind of, come to Jesus advice and say, look, you don't really need to do that. And, probably, I mean, I'll give you a parallel example. Somebody may have decent lighting in their parking lot in the shopping center. But if you go to them and say, well, I've got a smaller, shinier, brighter object, and it'll save you this much in energy, the shopping center landlord is going to say, what do I care? The tenants have pay CAM, common area maintenance includes utility bill. What do I care if they save a little money in their common area lighting? But then if you go to them and say, you have a shopping center, and do you have CapEx cost recovery in your leases? They'll say, well, we do, which for the uninitiated means that if the landlord invests in a capital improvement in the shopping center that reduces operating expenses for all tenants, he can pass that capital expenditure through amortized with carrying costs to tenants until the thing's paid off. And the second question is, this is a big enough shopping center, sophisticated enough for a landlord. I bet you have percentage rents lease clauses. Yeah, well, for the uninitiated on this call, it's the landlord charges the tenants base rent per square foot plus a percentage of the gross sales per square foot. Now, if the lighting guy or gal goes to that landlord and says, hey, I understand you have CapEx cost recovery, which means you're not going to pay for these lights anyway to get better lighting in the parking lot. And number two, when a real estate investment trust with 100 shopping centers upgraded their parking lot lighting, they found that in addition to saving 40% of their lighting energy costs in the parking lot, they noticed a considerable uptick in nighttime foot traffic. And I can assure you that when those people came into the parking lot, because it was a brighter, cheerier, safer parking lot, they didn't just stay in their cars and watch Netflix movies on their smartphones. They went out and they shopped. And when they shopped, the tenants made more money at night in sales. And when the tenants had more gross retail sales per square foot, they paid more rent to the landlord. So what I'm doing here is I'm giving you a formula for putting better lighting in your parking lot that the tenants will pay for through CapEx cost recovery. And at the end of the day, they'll have the right to pay you higher rent because they'll have higher sales at night. And by the way, since they'll have higher sales at night, they'll be more profitable, which means they'll be more likely to pay their base rent, and they'll be more likely to renew, and they'll be more likely to tell a prospective tenant who asks, how busy is this place at night? Oh my God, this place is gangbusters ever since they put the new parking lot lighting in. So I guess that's a long-winded way of saying that you can no longer be a person who just slings light bulbs at people. I think you need to,
right.
you need to segment specific, that's what you get in segment guides, our database, 400 hours of research in 24 different segments. You need to talk the language of the business person and say the reason you should take these old decaying lights out of your parking lot, even if they're LED, they're old generation, they're failing. The parking lot looks like crap. You put new lights up there, now you're going to have higher retail sales per square foot. You're going to get higher percentage rents. And by the way, you can charge the tenants for the new lights anyway because it's CapEx cost recovery provision. That kind of I mean, look, it took me 3 minutes to explain that to you guys in the
Mm.
audience. But can you imagine if somebody gets that perfect tenant serve down and starts talking to commercial shopping center owners in the neighborhood? You sell every one of them because the landlord would have to be brain dead not to say, "Wow, I never really thought about that." That's it, A to B to C. Thanks for putting those alphabet soups together. You
Yeah.
connected new lights to higher percentage rent. Oh, I forgot. When you get the higher percentage rent, you get higher net operating income, and the asset value of the shopping center goes up. So now you're getting a 10 to 1 or 15 to 1 multiple. The value of the shopping center just went up, and guess what? You get to keep the new lights when the existing tenants leave after they've already paid
Part of the argument
for
Mark
your
is
lights.
making is that lighting is important, Greg. Like, we kind of
Yeah.
forgot about
Yes.
that.
Yeah. And well, that's my question. Kind of like going back to what you said at the beginning about math. Is it always come down to math, or can we not look at numbers sometimes when it comes to lighting? Does it, like Mike said, it matters, and it, makes you feel better. You talk like slips and falls. Well, that's less medical
Yes.
expenses. People, going there. That's more people paying rent. People being attracted to it.
Yeah.
Can we not get away
In
from math, or are we
business,
always going to be there?
well, here's the thing. There are people, and I know this because I helped the EPA create the Energy Star buildings for commercial real estate. And I recruited 2 billion square feet into that program, this voluntary pollution prevention program. I guarantee some of the people who joined that program joined out of ego. It wasn't even math. They just wanted to brag that they had the sticker at that time. It's kind of, you may remember when the first program rolled out in the mid 90s, they had a bronze plaque for the Energy Star label until somebody pointed out that to smelt bronze causes a lot of atmospheric pollution. So they switched to a blue plastic label. But back in the day, it was this heavy 10-pound thing. If you drop this plaque on your
Ah,
foot, you break a toe.
I want the
But
plaque.
bottom line is people they go with the plaque. Yeah, they could have made the plaque out of recycled soda bottles, but I guess they weren't advanced to that. But bottom line is, their business people have to. If you look, one of my mantras that I tell all of our graduates, and by the way, it's 21,000 graduates now. It's not 15,000. It was my mistake. It was a typo in the bio that we've updated now. It's now 21,000 graduates. What I tell these people is people make emotional decisions and then they justify them financially.
Yeah, that's true.
So at some point, you're going to have to ask Mother May, I have the capital for the project. And someone's going to have to opine saying this is or isn't the highest and best use of shareholder money. It's
Hmm.
that simple. But the person who wants to start burning political capital to attract and retain the attention of those decision makers, that person is emotionally motivated to do it for some reason. It's going to make his or her job easier. Maybe it's going to be less lighting maintenance because they're going to have to, they don't have to get the genie lift out as frequently to replace these aging electronic ballasts and T8 lamps, or or it's going to have less complaints from tenants or leasing brokers walking through and saying that place looks a little shabby, whatever. Or maybe they just want an Energy Star label in their building, and this is one of the ways they can get it. There's an emotional justification, and then there is the financial justification. So it helps to know both. You know,
And something to add on at the end that is really important is the emergency lighting. That's why you want to go to baronltg.com for Exitronics, Greg. Eric, come on, buddy.
That's right. I was there today using that site just to find the right product, and it's everywhere. Your exit emergency lights are everywhere. I've had 2 projects in the last 2 days that have involved that, and Exitronics has a solution every time.
You go to
nice.
baronltg.com. That's BARRONLTG.com. You click the Exitronics under the products section. And of course, Mark, what final thoughts do you have before you take that call? What final thoughts do you have for the
That
Get a Grip on Lighting podcast
was somebody
listeners?
ordering Baron Lighting.
There you go. BARRONLTG.com, baby.
That's right. That's funny. Um, what I think the bottom line is that people have to um, do you have to take a larger view. It's easy to get all tied up and wrapped around the axle and say, "Oh my God, the pricing's changing, the rebates are going away, the tax credits are going away, the tariffs are coming, the tariffs are coming." As if the British are coming. The point is, there's always a reason to make a building more hospitable to its occupants. I mean, after all, what's the purpose of a building? It's to improve the productivity of the occupants or to be somehow more functional, right? And lighting is the most visible, pun intended, aspect of making a place welcoming and productive and safe And so just because they make it a little bit more expensive, I mean, look, inflation's been with us every year. You know, I can't remember last year the prices went down. So the tariffs raise the price a little bit. So the credit goes away. So you lose a rebate. Who cares? You never. I mean, if you look at the non-utility cost, financial, non-financial benefits of better lighting, I would think that you're probably at least one order of magnitude larger, more valuable than what the energy savings would have been anyway. And so you got to just broaden the aperture and look at all the benefits and start selling that stuff. That would be my
And
closing
And you got to register for
statement.
the controls course at Lightivation in June. Go to nald.org, like get certified for these controls. If you search for at selling energy on any any social media, I'm talking Facebook, LinkedIn, X, Instagram, and YouTube, Mark's probably going to come up. But all of those
There
links
you go.
are in the show notes. You can check them out below. nald.org. Do you have light bulbs in a warehouse? You're a trader if you haven't joined Nailed yet. You're riding us. Come on. It's only $250 to join Nailed as a distributor. And of course, Greg, don't be a chump.
I'm not. You don't either. We're going to Light Fair Vegas, May 4th through the 8th.
The only people that can stop
Nice.
me are the border guards, U.S. Customs Border Patrol Agency. That's it. Other than that, I'll be at it. I'll be at Light Fair for sure, May 4th through 8th. Thank you all for listening. We love you guys. Bye for now.